Alright, hello everyone, Rufy here with another play and explain video. Today, before we go back all the way down to 2NL and see if we can find some interesting plays. Strategy is gonna be as normal. We try to play solid aggressive style, go for thin for value, bluff catch a lot versus fish. And yeah, let's jump right into it. Gonna be fun. I think it's the first video that I do in 2NL, so we'll see if there's a big difference to 5 or 10 NL or 25 NL, maybe to 25 NL, but I think it's quite similar to 5 or 10 NL, I would say. But let's see if I'm wrong or not. King Queen suited here, blind will always go for a 3-bet. And then also with the plan of calling a 4-bet, although I guess at 2NL I'm not too happy facing a 4-bet here. But I just expect mainly folds or calls. And then a 6-4 suited to the right hand. I guess 3x is actually a bit closer. Although I think against the recreational we can make the call here profitable. Good board for us. I'm not playing a leading strategy, but you definitely could. And now on the turn, once he checks back, I expect his range to be very ace-x heavy. And I think against that, like a block bet is a strategy that works well in theory anyway, doing a lot of block bets. You could also check to then simply check call. And we see a raise after he checks back, very interesting. If we were deeper, re-raising would be an interesting option as a bluff. I think now as played, probably best to just call and fold the river. This is a very annoying river. And the question is, can we do something by leading here? Let's check back an 8 to raise on the turn. We could try to do something like this. Saying we have a 7, maybe making him fold an overpair, a random bluff that he had. And it actually works. That's great. So the idea here is right, we obviously have a lot of 7x betting the turn. And those hands improve to full houses, and we can lead them to get value from these overpairs. And obviously now we only have 6 highs, so that's never really gonna win, even if he folds out like 10-9 or Jack-10. That's already good for us, and sometimes he might even fold an overpair. Here with the 10-9 we get 3-bet. Could 4-bet, but I think just call is gonna be the standard here. And this flop, we have some backdoors, but I think we'd rather continue with 8-7, 9-8. I think 10-9 probably has to fold. Maybe if he goes like 20% or something, but against 1/3, I think we unfortunately just have to fold. Jack-10 of clubs also better. Queen-10 of clubs obviously better, but I think 10-9 specifically might have to fold. Although blind you do have to continue wider than in normal 3-bet pots. Out of position, I think 10-9 just too weak here. Opening the King-9, get a flat call, so very often that means it's going to be a recreational. And we flop bottom 2. And I think here even the theory strategy would be to use a polar strategy, because this board hits our range so well. But I think also in practice it makes a lot of sense if he's not folding enough and we want to get the max against his ace-x. On the right hand table we will 3-bet the kings. And unfortunately we get a fold. I don't think sizing here is too important. I think the calling range will be quite inelastic, so if I have a strong hand like kings, I still want to go nice and large. And then maybe go a little bit smaller if you have like one of your weaker 3-bets like ace-4 suited or something. On the right hand side, pretty decent board for us. With the ace of spades, I think I like a bigger bet on this flop. And here the ace-8. Although against 3.5x we're not that happy, I think we're still calling. And then turn is actually interesting. We can continue here with an overpair. Having picked up the 3, we have some more outs. And we put a lot of pressure on draws. And if he calls us, we can still check back on the river if the river is a complete brick. But yeah, I think barreling here is good. Snap check back on table 1 makes me think we have the best hand very often. Now the question is just, do you either want to bet or check? Normally this would a spot where you should go really polar and not really bet hands like this and bet like 2 pairs plus here. I think on turn I would probably just want to bet this hand for a normal sizing. Getting value from turn Jack X. A7 against 3x, I think at 2L is just a fold. And now on the river, I think our hand is at max worth a block bet against a Jack X. We could also check to let him bluff, although I think he's just more likely to have picked up a Jack and is not folding that. And now we do get the very quick raise. I think the option is just a fold. Like he could definitely have trapped on the flop. He could have turned jacks or random 3x like king 3 suited, 4 3 suited. I don't think he's bluff raising enough, especially at that speed and for that sizing. So I think the best is to just fold here. Here on the left hand side we started with a small block bet multi-way, and I think the turn we will check behind, and with the plan of mainly bluff catching on the river. And if he doesn't, I think we just value bet, try and target random king or queen. Although we split with the other a6, I think it's still fine. I don't expect him to really trap us here and check raise much. And he's ace king and doesn't value bet himself. Interesting. I was gonna say he shouldn't have ace king, and then ace queen is probably gonna raise a flop also this amount of the time / bet the river itself. So didn't really think we would be behind here. Opened the 10-9 just because of all these weaker players in the blinds. Going for a small c-bet. Now we're gonna check back the turn with plan on calling against most river bets. After we bet small, fish usually float quite wide and we'll have a lot of bluffs. And now we would have a decent bluff raise candidate, actually blocking the straights and the flushes. But now that he checks, we just check back. And we can say 6. If he had a jack or better, I think we could value bet here, but I think at 9 is a bit too weak. 10-7 I think is a fine raise blindly blind, then people don't 3-bet you enough. And obviously we do get 3-bet whenever I say that. Deuces is definitely open from the cutoff. Again, the same reasons. If you don't get 3-bet enough from people behind you, even if they flat call maybe a bit more, it should still be profitable to open more of these hands, just because you realize more equity. Queen 9, this is a really good board for us. You could simplify to a range bet. You can also have checks and bigger bets. I think both is fine. Against the potential recreation, I'd actually prefer the check back line and call on the turn. And here the 10-9, both small c-bet and check is fine. Although again, I think I would prefer to check a bit more. And yeah, obviously calling with my queen 9 on the turn. There's a lot of potential draws. And the 10-9 is already quite close, facing the larger bet, but I think we can turn our hand into bluff on potential later streets. I think we still have to call here against the half pot bet. And then on the river, I don't love the pot size bet on the river, but I think we still have to call. There's a lot of draws that missed all the spades, all the bluffs, all the jack X. And so I think we just have to make a call. And at 10-9 now we can fold once he double barrels. We don't pick up any equity, so I think we just check fold. Definitely, if I would play these stakes, I would take a note that this guy can bluff for pot bet. But yeah, basically by checking back, right, we allowed him to pick up some equity, but also to bluff a hand like this that would probably just fold on the flop facing a c-bet. The important part here is that if you check back a king or a queen, unless the runner comes like 4 to a flush, 4 to a straight, you're not really planning on folding. It's just way too easy to overbluff. He has the big blind shoes. If you start betting all of your draws, you just have too many draws compared to the amount of value hands that he has in this spot. and we block a hand like Jack 9 or Queen 10 or King Queen. King 3, we open against the big blind. This board is quite equal. It hits both ranges equally well, and we have absolute air, so we just check back. Usually here, when you don't range bet, you wanna check back most of your very trashy hands, sometimes bet your trashy hands, but the main plan with those hands is just to check back, try to realize your equity, fold if you don't pick up any equity, and potentially bluff turns of river if it goes check check again, and start betting, you know, a bit more of a polarized range, which usually contains most of your good hands, and then most of your draws, like flush draws, Jack 10, Queen 10, 6 and 7x. 10-7, I will just, you know, check behind, see a free flop, decent flop, and we see a snap check behind. Normally would always bet out on the turn, however on the ace I think it's better to actually go for a check raise. I think he's gonna have a lot of ace-x that check back on the flop, and hopefully now he's not gonna believe me when I put in the re-raise. And here I wanna go quite large, trying to get stacks in by the river. Don't think he's folding an ace just yet, even against the larger sizings. Hopefully he has an ace with a redraw, ace 4, ace 5, an ace with a spade, maybe even a 2 pair. And he re-raises, and I think we just jam it in. Hope he stack ace 3, ace 2s, a set, maybe even aces that limped pre. You can definitely have a better flush, but it's very unlikely he snap checked on the flop, so we'll just ship it. And sorry for this. Oh, he did actually have the nut flush that checked back. Unfortunate, but we're not really getting our way here. Also something interesting to take note, that he did snap check back in position, right, with the nut flush. But yeah, this hand, especially for 75 big blinds, is just always going into the middle. Jack 10 on the right hand side. You could have some check backs here, but I think Microstakes is fine to just range bet these paired boards. Really tough to defend a lot, well, defend enough as the big blind. I have to check raise a lot. 8-5 will defend against an open raise. So far, not so good. We're getting destroyed by the 2NL regs, and by the 2NL players. Gonna open raise the king 8. We go 3 ways, quite common here. Ace 8 offsuit is a bit loose. If the guys are not 3-betting enough, I think it's still fine to ISO, but normally would probably go ace 10 or better here. And then on the left hand side we also have a really good board. I think it's still fine to just go for a small cbet here. Although multi-way you want to be a bit more careful, and this guy leads out for overpot. I mean, we're just folding if he leads that large 3 ways. Deuces facing a limp, both ISOing and overlimping here is fine. I think it's fine to play overlimps here with just your weak part of your range. Deuces can go either way. I think just overlimping is probably fine too. Trying to hit a set for cheap. If you ISO and he calls, it's not the easiest to play. We just fold. This guy likes just to really bomb it on the flop. King 3 suited will also open if it folds to us. And then obviously folding versus a 3-bet. Here we have another of these boards where you definitely don't want to range bet, and probably want to go for a polarized strategy with a larger bet. And then King 3 suited, obviously great candidate to put into our cbets. If I want to check back flush draws, it would probably be more a hand like, you know, ace 10. Here I folded a lot of dominated King X hands, and I think on a turn we can check back sometimes, but generally I think I just want to keep on barreling. The turn card is a bit connecting. Both players will make some new straights. I think limiting yourself to pot or 75% should be a good sizing here, and we do take it down. I think in practice you can be quite equity driven, and here just bet your strong hands at your strong draws here, and not worry too much you know, that your betting range is a bit too strong. Yeah, opening 6-5 offsuit blindly blind just because I don't expect people to 3-bet wide enough. 2.5x or 3x, it doesn't really matter. Let me know in the comments if you enjoy which stakes you prefer to see the most, if it's 2NL, 10NL, 25NL. I know in our Discord we have people playing, you know, both 2NL, 10NL and 25NL. So I guess just mixing it up a little bit, there should be something for everyone in there. I think it's the first time I did a video on 2NL. 10-9 against the cutoff is also one of those hands you could ISO if you have some reads. Normally we would just check behind and see if a flop for free. Goes check. Again, I'd expect to have the best hand most of the time. With a 9, checking is fine again here too, but also value betting. And now we get a quick call. Probably rather going into the check calling line than value betting myself now. There's a decent amount of draws that missed that could now bluff. He just has queens that limped. Interesting. King 3 obviously folding against the 3-bet. So yeah, people limping strong hands so far from what we've seen. So then it's definitely better to just check back and realize.